practice. I've had witnesses go to the wrong courthouse. I've gone to the wrong courthouse on one occasion.
Testing, testing.
You want to sit there?
Yeah, I'll sit here because you're going to distribute.
There he is. Hey, Jake.
Okay.
Hey, no, Jake House there.
Microphone's off. Good to meet you.
We're on the record. Good morning. Welcome to the Maryland Public Service Commission. In case number 9691, the complaint of the commission staff of the PSC against Greenlight Energy LLC. This is a show cause hearing. Pursuant to Commission Order 90511, issued on February 15th, the commission took note of the order of the complaint filed by the commission staff and issued a schedule for responsive pleadings, which we have received. There have been several extensions of this proceeding till today, and I understand that we have a settlement that was tendered before the commission yesterday. At this point, we will take appearances of the parties, beginning with commission staff.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Peter Wilson on behalf of staff, and with me as co-counsel is Trevor Tomlinson.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Wilson. Office of People's Counsel.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Jacob Auslander, on behalf of the Maryland Office of People's Counsel.
Thank you. And counsel for Greenlight Energy Incorporated.
Good morning, Brian Green with the law firm Green Herlocker on behalf of Greenlight Energy, Inc.
Thank you. So I understand that yesterday, on March 13th, we did receive a full settlement. April 13th, 2023. We received a full settlement signed by the three parties before the commission. Before the commission begins any examination, are there any preliminary matters or motions to hear? Seeing none. Does staff have a witness?
Staff does have a witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Before we call the witness to the stand, anything from staff?
No, Your Honor. I think we can go right to the witness.
Okay. All right. Please call your witness.
Staff calls Stephanie Bolton.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm under the penalties of perjury the statements made in this matter today are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
State your full name.
Stephanie Bolton. Stephanie is Stephanie, Bolton, B as in boy, Olton.
Give me your business address, please.
6 St. Paul Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21212.
Thank you. First, I'd ask that we mark the settlement agreement as Joint Exhibit 1, and that's being distributed. This was filed yesterday, and Mr. Tomlinson has just pointed out to me an error that we all missed, and that's in the first line. It's the 13th day of April 2023. That needs to be inserted in the settlement agreement.
The document is so marked as Joint Exhibit Number 1, and the typo is noted.
Thank you. Ms. Bolton, could you tell us your position with the Commission?
I am the Director of the Consumer Affairs Division.
And in that capacity, are you familiar with Greenlight Energy and a number of CAD complaints that had been filed by consumers with CAD concerning Greenlight?
Yes, that's correct.
And did CAD find in favor of the consumer in a number of these complaints?
Yes.
And are you familiar with staff's complaint based on these complaints, which is the basis of this case, case number 9691?
Yes, I am.
And did this involve a number of different violations, violations of different types, including contracting violations?
That's correct.
And have the parties, to your knowledge, reached an agreement to resolve and settle staff's complaint?
Yes, they have.
And are the terms of the settlement set forth in the agreement, which has been marked as Joint Exhibit 1, which I take it you have before you?
Yes, I do.
Turning to the terms of the agreement, do the terms call for a civil penalty?
Yes, the terms do call for a civil penalty in the amount of $40,000.
And do the terms also provide for re-rates or refunds for certain customers?
Yes, with regard to the 24 CAD complaints identified by staff in the complaint in which CAD found in favor of the customer, Greenlight has already provided refunds to each of them. And in addition to those refunds, Greenlight is paying the civil penalty of $40,000. And in addition to those refunds, Greenlight is going to provide refunds by check or bill credits within the time to be agreed upon by Greenlight staff, the Office of People's Counsel, and the Consumer Affairs Division. They are going to provide refunds to all of the Greenlight customers enrolled by door-to-door sales agents in different CAD complaint numbers, which I can read if anybody would like, in the amount that equals the difference between the SOS rate, standard offer service rate, and the rate that Greenlight charged for supply. The sum total of which is $47,314 for all refunded customers combined. In addition, Greenlight is going to provide refunds to the current door-to-door customers identified by utilities as receiving energy assistance as of April 1st, 2023, in an amount that also comprises the difference between the standard offer service rate and Greenlight's supply rate, and the sum total of which is about $15,000 for all of those refunded customers combined. Greenlight is also going to work with staff, the Office of People's Counsel, and the Consumer Affairs Division in the drafting of a letter to customers receiving refunds explaining the reasons for those refunds, and they are going to provide staff, the Office of People's Counsel, and CAD with a spreadsheet identifying the customers that received a refund, the calculation of the refund, and the refund amount Greenlight paid to each customer.
Okay. And so the total amount that Greenlight will be paying, it amounts to over $100,000.
Yes, that's correct.
And in addition to these monetary, the penalty and the refunds, has Greenlight agreed to reform its marketing practices, including a contract changes to bring its contract into compliance, and as well agreed to a moratorium in door-to-door and telephonic marketing until approval is reached by CAD for it to return to marketing?
Yes, that is correct.
And is there also a reporting requirement by Greenlight concerning complaints and marketing with reports to be made for the next 2 years to staff, OPC, and CAD?
Yes.
And in your opinion, are the terms of this settlement reasonably designed to address and correct Greenlight's prior compliance problems?
Yes, I believe that they are well situated to follow this settlement agreement to address prior compliance problems, and I'm confident that going forward, they will be on the right side of the Commission's rules and regulations. And I appreciate their commitment to working with staff, the Office of People's Counsel, and the Consumer Affairs Division on this.
So I think you've just answered this question, but has Greenlight been proactive and cooperative in addressing these problems?
Yes, they have.
And is the settlement in the public interest?
Yes, it is.
And with that, Your Honor, I will pass the witness. I understand there's no cross-examination by the other parties, so
Thank you. Seeing no examination by other parties, do commissioners have questions of this witness? Commissioner Bubar.
Thank you. And I just want to make sure I'm doing this appropriately. So I just have some questions about the settlement. So if I can't answer, or if I can't ask them, let me know.
And the parties obviously feel free to object to commissioner questioning if outside bounds.
Yeah, I'm new to this. First time. I guess on page 2 of the settlement, I have a question where it talks about online enrollments, and within 90 days, final approval, Greenlight shall complete modification and list what they have to do. And then it says prior to the resumption of online enrollments, Greenlight has to demonstrate. I just wanted a little bit of clarity on what is the real signal that is going to be the signal that Greenlight can resume online enrollments? Is it approval by CAD of all of these pieces of information? I just wanted to make sure that I understand. How does Greenlight know that they got the green light, so to speak?
Yes, they are going to communicate with CAD to obtain CAD's feedback, and they are also going to provide materials to staff, the Office of People's Counsel as well. So we'll collaborate in concluding that all of the necessary changes have been made and that we are all comfortable moving forward with Greenlight in compliance with the terms of the settlement and the rules and regulations.
And will CAD send something that says you are good to resume online enrollments? All these
Absolutely.
boxes have been checked. Okay. That was a question I had. On page 3, where it talks about miscellaneous marketing modifications, it says all new enrollments shall receive a phone call, text, or email. I was just wondering who makes that phone call?
Somebody on the Greenlight staff or a vendor of Greenlights.
Okay. All right. Then on the next page, on page 4, it says Greenlight shall conduct training and or educational sessions. I was wondering if there was any discussion about, is that a one-time training? Is that ongoing training?
See, we don't have a specific training schedule that we are holding Greenlight to, but I understand that they're going to make changes to their training materials periodically as the law in Maryland evolves. And that there's going to be multiple trainings because there needs to be a training now for current employees before they get started again with marketing. And also going forward, when they hire new vendors, those vendors will receive training as well.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then I did note, as Mr. Wilson had pointed out, it's $102,000, I think $314. That is the payment that is being made when you add everything up. I have some questions about the company and the website, but I think I'll hold those. Maybe we can get through this first round of questions, and I might come back and have other questions. That's okay.
Other questions of this witness?
Probably not. It's more questions about the company.
Okay, we'll wait for the company
Okay,
witness.
all right. Thank you.
Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning.
Good morning.
I also had a couple of questions about the review process that's raised in the settlement, and the same section that Commissioner Bubar raised her questions in. But that was for the resumption of online enrollments, but there's similar language under the door-to-door enrollment section and a similar requirement under telephone enrollment. So help me to understand what happens after the three parties, and this would be staff and OPC as well as CAD, review and conclude that Greenlight has met the requirements that are set forth here. You would give them some kind of a confirmation, I suppose.
Yes, a confirmation in writing.
Okay. And so let's hypothetically walk ahead 3 months from that time. So 90 days later, Greenlight has started its enrollments, and a new complaint comes in from a customer. How is that? What's the vision for that complaint getting managed at that point?
Any new complaints that come in, do you mean the new complaint that comes in that is regarding a transaction that was completed after the 90 days? Okay.
After everything's been reviewed and approved.
So Greenlight will go through the dispute resolution process that every supplier in utility is subject to. They are going to respond within 7 days to the complaint received, and CAD will render a decision. CAD will proactively monitor complaints with regard to Greenlight, as we do all suppliers, to make sure that we're not seeing any patterns of potential issues that we need to address with companies. With regard to Greenlight, when these issues come up, part of the settlement, part of what we are agreeing to is making sure that we are proactive in addressing these complaints before they turn into systemic patterns. So if we see a couple complaints that are within a tight time period and they are raising the same types of issues, we'll reach out to Greenlight and say, hey, what's going on with this? Anything we should know about? And hear from Greenlight about what they're doing and if it makes sense to make any changes. And that will be at Greenlight's discretion at that point. However, if Greenlight does not make the necessary changes to be in compliance with Maryland law and regulation, we are not prohibited from bringing another new action against Greenlight after the 90-day period or 1-year period, depending on the type of marketing channel, that addresses newer complaints that took place via enrollments after this settlement.
Okay. Is there any concern that we are shifting the burden of proof from the company to demonstrate that they're in adherence to our regulation, and instead, along the same lines with this hypothetical complaint, are we shifting the burden now to the customer to prove that the company has done something to them that is outside of what the settlement approval that all the parties have given for Greenlight is now stating is okay?
No, I don't think that the customers going forward would be limited in terms of what they can bring to us in a complaint if there are still issues, even issues similar to what we're seeing in the complaint that took place based on enrollments out in the future after the complaint period, after the settlement. Ultimately, we're going to look first at each complaint individually, make sure that the Consumer Affairs Division finds whether or not the company is in compliance with the rules and regulations. That's always going to be our step one. And ultimately, if a customer comes to us with these complaints, they will be processed through the dispute resolution process that all of our complainants are subject to, all of our companies are subject to. It wouldn't affect their right to come to us with these issues. And ultimately, most customers of Greenlights or anybody's are understandably not going to be aware of this litigation and this settlement. So whether they come to us with issues that may be similar to these issues, they're not going to know about it. We wouldn't impose a different burden on them to prove their allegations, and we wouldn't expect them to be aware of any different burden to prove their allegations. Would there have been one?
Okay. So I know we'll have a Greenlight, I believe we have a Greenlight witness testifying later. So just to make clear then, since you're testifying on behalf of all three parties, there isn't any there's no understanding amongst the three parties that Greenlight has a different standard moving forward. If they receive an approval from OPC, CAD, and staff, that their process is now presumably in adherence to our regulations, even before complaints in the future may come in. So there's no understanding that everything is okay in advance. That in other words, that a complaint can still be investigated just like any other one.
That's correct.
Okay. That actually is stated in Section 8 of the settlement. It's the last sentence. And it kind of leads nicely into the next section that I wanted to just touch on very briefly is the section 9 regarding admission of precedent. Does any of the parties, People's Council staff and CAD, do not look at this and any potential approval of this in this settlement as, I guess I'll use the term the Greenlight standard for future suppliers that want to come in and say, oh, we did what Greenlight did, so this is acceptable. So we're not going to see other parties. These parties are not making the statement today that anything you approve in the future sets a new standard for other suppliers to follow for their marketing and outreach. Is that
That was my understanding as well.
okay? All right. That's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bolton, while we're on paragraph 8 here, the agreement not to investigate or prosecute, this section only applies to those complaints filed between June 9th, 2020 and September 14th, 2022. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. I'd just like to get on the record, do all three parties agree with the response that was just given by Ms. Bolton to my question?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Thank you. Any redirect? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Bolton. You may step down.
Your Honor, at the conclusion of all the evidence, which will be the Greenlight witness, we'll be moving for the commission to approve this settlement agreement. But for now, I'd like to move it into evidence.
Thank you. Joint exhibit number 1 is moved into evidence. OPC, no witness.
No witness, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Green.
Your Honor, the company calls Mr. Michael Hartopoulos to the stand.
Mr. Kartopoulos, if you could please enter the witness box, raise your right hand.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm, under the penalties of perjury, that this statement made in this matter today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Speak more into the microphone.
I do.
Give me your full name.
Michael Hartopoulos.
Spell your full name.
Michael
A little louder,
Hartopoulos.
please. And would you give me your business address, please?
It's 310 New York Avenue, Huntington, New York, 11743.
Thank you very much. Your witness.
Mr. Hartopoulos, can you tell the commission a little bit about the background of Greenlight Energy, where it started, and the decision to come to Maryland?
Certainly. Good morning. So I started Greenlight Energy back in 2009 with my father. We started in New York primarily to provide additional value to his insurance customers. This is for me right out of college. We're looking for ways to supplement his business. We started in New York, New Jersey. As we got more familiar with the business, we expanded into Maryland, which for me was natural. I went to the University of Maryland. I had a strong network there. I played college lacrosse there. I've relationships, a lot of friends. So I was excited for the opportunity to expand into the state. I feel like I've represented the state on the lacrosse field before I left for Maryland. Yesterday, my kids were going to school with Maryland lacrosse shirts, and so I'm proud of my relationship to Maryland. So I just want to make it clear that I take this complaint very seriously, and the allegations of fraud, and it's something that that's been weighing, and certainly look forward to addressing with CAD to ensure that address these complaints, address any concerns to ensure that this doesn't happen ever again.
Your Honor, I'm not sure how much detail you want me to get in with respect to the settlement. We can walk him through it, or you may just have questions that you all want to get to and do away with any of the direct that I may have planned. So I want to be efficient today, but I also want to be thorough. So
Well, Mr. Green, we have the joint exhibit in front of us. We have this, it was the same one filed yesterday, so we've thoroughly reviewed that and heard the testimony of the commission witness. We don't need to retread any of that ground, but to the extent you have additional direct that the commission may find enlightening in attempting to figure out whether or not this settlement is in the public interest, I would encourage you to proceed.
Sure. Let me pick certain portions of the settlement and ask about that in response to certain questions that we've heard already from the commissioners. Mr. Hartofelis, can you turn to page 2 of the settlement, please?
Yes.
And this is the section that deals with the company's online enrollments. Can you give just a high-level description of how the online enrollments were working before the company ceased marketing in Maryland?
Certainly. So we had display ads or lead form ads on Google, Facebook, Instagram, basically anywhere on the internet, so YouTube. So whatever the product that we're offering at the time, prospective customer would click on it, their information would populate, they would read about the product, what we were offering, and then they would submit that lead information, and they can continue on to our website and enroll there themselves without any kind of agent intervention, or an agent would be contacting them within 10 minutes of submitting the lead form to enroll them over the phone through a TPV.
So the lead form, either it's going to auto-populate or the customer will enter their contact information into the form, and it's essentially a request to be contacted by Greenlight?
That's right, yeah. So we have a mandatory, or what Facebook, Google has with these lead forms is they have consent language to be contacted. So typically we use theirs.
It's a template that Instagram or Facebook or Google provide that is what the company is using.
That's right. We're working within the confines of what their template is.
Okay. And so from the online enrollments, they either do it themselves through the Greenlight website, or they get the phone call and it becomes a telephone enrollment.
That's right.
And the telephone enrollment, there's a third-party TPV at the end of that process?
Yes.
And then the company sends them by email the contract and contract summary?
That's right, yes.
And did there come a time where in 2022 when the company received several CAD complaints in a short duration of time, several CAD decisions in a short duration of time about the contracts themselves?
That's right, yeah. And we received our first violations of 2022 in May, and there was a string of, this was the first time we really saw any violations relating to the contract issues. And at that time, within 30 days, we halted all marketing because, it's had to figure out what, and understand the issue at hand, and we haven't marketed since. So that was end of May 2022.
So was it not evident from the CAD decisions what was missing or what the problem was with the contracts in May of 2022?
No, not entirely. So it's we didn't want to leave anything up to interpretation anymore. We found ourselves in violation of these with respects to the contracting issues. So we wanted to get a better understanding, but we were kind of striking out there. So that's why another reason we halted marketing.
So looking back now at page 2 of the settlement agreement, the online enrollment process, this would require the company to essentially redo its contracting documents and now require the if someone does an online enrollment, to scroll all the way down through the documents and provide an electronic signature, not just a checkbox at the end of that, at the end, in order to enroll?
That's right, yeah. So instead of any kind of agent intervention now, well, agent is going to direct them to the website, so there's no live TPV. So the prospective customer will see the contract, and they're required to scroll through the contract, see their contract summary, scroll through, and then provide a digital signature in order to enroll.
So anything that, if the customer fills out a lead form and gets a phone call from the company, that enrollment, then the customer will be directed to the website, right? And will have to go through this online process.
That's right, yes.
Okay, and so that includes an electronic signature at the end of that process, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the requirement at the bottom of page 2 on the settlement that Greenlight shall demonstrate the process for staff, OPC, and CAD, and approval by CAD, is that something that is important to Greenlight as it charts a path forward in Maryland?
Very much, yes. So we're, I mean, it would be fantastic to get CAD's blessing on all marketing and contracting materials. I know that, but yeah, that is the ideal, certainly.
And this paragraph, as well as the telephone enrollment, is in direct response to the rash of CAD decisions that the company received in May of 2022 with respect to the contracts themselves?
That's right, yes.
Okay. And going to the next page for the telephone enrollments, I believe you just testified that when the agent's on the phone with the customer, the way it used to work before the company ceased marketing is that the agent would sign the customer up on the phone, and then there would be an oral TPV following that, right?
That's correct.
And here in page 3, paragraph C, that same customer going forward would be directed to the website to enroll through the online process, right?
That's correct, to review the contract and provide digital signature.
And is it your understanding that several of the CAD decisions found Greenlight in violation for failing to get a signature for these telephonic enrollments?
Yes,
And is this section partially in response to those CAD decisions?
it is, yes.
Because you'll now be getting an electronic signature from the customer, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I believe that's all the settlement direct questions I have. I would ask Mr. Hartopoulos, do you find that the provisions here chart a reasonable path forward in Maryland for Greenlight?
Yes, they do.
And is Greenlight committed to working with OPC staff and CAD, in the interim to do all of the things that are in the settlement?
Yes, most certainly.
Okay. And, Your Honor, that's all the direct exam I have. I'm happy to turn it over to, I don't believe there's any cross, so if any commissioners or your...
Is there any cross?
I no cross.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hartopoulos. I have some questions for you. Regarding Greenlight operations generally, you say that this is a family-owned business,
That's right.
and this business was started in 2009?
I believe we got our first license in 2010, but started the process in 2009.
In what states are you licensed?
We're licensed in 8 states, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Delaware, Michigan, Illinois.
In those other states, are there any current regulatory proceedings pending against your company?
Nothing pending, but there is something that was referenced also in the complaint in the state of Pennsylvania.
Prior activity?
Yeah.
Can all of your license numbers with respect to these states that you do business in, are they available on your website?
I believe so, yes.
When you were sworn in today, you stated that your business address is 310 New York Avenue in Huntington?
That's our current headquarters.
Okay. That's also the address for the Huntington Performing Arts Center, is that right?
So has a handful of businesses in there, but I believe so. Yeah, they're our neighbor.
What type of office do you have in that building?
It's a retail location that we set up in a little over 2 years ago. This was during COVID, so retail office space was pretty affordable.
So this New York Avenue address has been your address since 2020?
Yeah. I'd say.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sorry.
And where was your business headquartered prior to Huntington?
So we had an address in Astoria that we use a mailing address, so that would have been home residence as well that we used in some cases for as a mailing address. We had an address in Forest Hills, so everything in New York.
So none of these addresses are open to the public?
I don't, in terms of whether they can walk in and, well, our current address is, but,
Do customers walk into the 310 New York Avenue address?
they're welcome to, but we don't get any visitors.
How many employees are in your company?
We have 5 employees.
And can you just state the roles of these 5 individuals? You are one of them?
I am one of them. I am the president, founder, Greenlight Energy. My father is working as a consultant. We have a compliance manager, John Mangrone. We have a customer service manager, and we have also an assistant to the office manager.
And they primarily work out of the Huntington address?
That's right.
Your website was referenced. Do you use your website for online enrollments in other states?
We were, yeah, until we halted all marketing.
In Maryland?
In Maryland, and then consequently in all states.
Is that why your current website is not up to full functionality?
Yeah, so in, December we were going to change from WordPress to Webflow. So we're changing everything in our website. And we're in the process of doing that. And then, yeah, when this complaint came up, that basically...
So is it fair to say the website has been neglected now for some time?
Yeah, well, when we received the complaint, we turned off all ability to even enroll or see quotes or anything because we didn't, we were instructed to eliminate all marketing channels. So we just...
That directive was just for the state of Maryland, but obviously this website could be accessed by customers in New York and Pennsylvania and elsewhere.
It can, but again, we haven't been marketing in the last, I'd say, anywhere in the last 7-8 months.
The product that you offer, can you explain the commodities that you offer for sale?
Certainly, natural gas and electricity supply.
Is 100% of the commodity that you offer for sale to prospective customers in Maryland quote-unquote green or renewable?
No.
Have you ever marketed your product as 100% green?
Perhaps 8 years ago in the state of New York when we were purchasing renewable energy credits at the time, and then there were some restrictions and regulations that related to those offerings. So we scaled that back entirely and no longer offer it.
Would you be surprised if on your social media channels that there were statements made by Greenlight Energy stating that you have a 100% green product?
Depends on how long ago those were posted, but yeah, it's kind of dependent on whatever the...
Do you have somebody who manages your social media accounts?
Not in about 24 months, I recall.
It's rather dated. Greenlight Energy Rewards, which is prominently displayed at the top of your website. We've experienced situations with other retail energy suppliers offering. It appears that you offer games, like I guess online video games, shopping, dining, playing, hotels and Disneyland and stuff like that. Is that still a marketing stream that Greenlight Energy uses?
No, it's we never included that in any marketing materials. It was on our website, and we're kind of gauging interest in it, but it's done through a third party. It's not, and we were approached because it was supposedly effective with other suppliers, so we put it on our website to see if our customers were interested in it, and we would accommodate if they were.
Are they interested in it?
No, I don't know exactly how many people have signed up for it, but or in the state of Maryland, but I would say a very, very small number.
Thank you. We haven't had the best experiences with these rewards programs in the past. I tender the witness. Commissioner Bovar.
Thank you. I had some questions about the website too, which I think were answered, because I noticed your About Us link doesn't work, and there wasn't a description of the product on the website, but it sounds like that's a work in progress.
Yes.
Okay. But I do have a specific question. When I was looking at the terms and conditions, which that link did work, it talked about termination, and it said you can terminate within 3 days, but there was nothing else in terms of the ability to terminate. So I'm presuming, but maybe I should ask the question, when you comply with the settlement agreement, if it's approved, you would actually use the terms and conditions that are on the Commission's website, and there would be additional information about the ability to terminate?
Most certainly, yes. Yes.
Okay. The only other comment I will have is I was looking at your the Better Business Bureau. You're not accredited, but it did give you a rating, but there were some fairly unsatisfactory customer reviews on there, so I don't know how often you look at that, but the number one said, Greenlight Energy is a scam, don't do business with them. So I presume you don't want those types of reviews going forward.
Most certainly not. No, we do not.
Okay, I don't have any other questions, thank you.
One follow-up. Do you purchase renewable energy credits?
Yes.
Okay. And why do you do that?
Just regulatory compliance. So I believe in every state there's requirement that we meet.
On the front page of your website, it states, quote, "We offer green energy through the purchase of renewable energy credits, which helps to offset the use of fossil fuels and make the world a cleaner place." Are you familiar with that statement?
I am. I don't recall it. I don't recall seeing it recently, but there were times where we did offer it as an additional. If somebody wanted to pay an additional premium for that, they would be aware of it, and there's additional details surrounding that product. But
Is that product is no longer available?
it isn't. No.
Okay. Additional questions, Commissioner Linton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And good afternoon, good morning. Just a few questions. So that I'm clear, this settlement does not require Greenlight to return any customers to the utility SOS.
That's correct.
Okay. So moving to, I believe it's, I have a 6B, which is on page 6 at the bottom. Make sure I'm on the right one. Does Greenlight currently know which of its customers are low-income customers?
I think we just got the report recently, so yeah, I believe to arrive at that number, we separated and
Okay, so you know them you know them to sufficient ability where you can provide refunds to them as required by this portion of the settlement.
that's correct.
Okay. All right. All right. That might be an issue in the future if your rates are not below SOS, but well, that's another issue for another day, I guess. On page 5, and there's a lot of numbers to get to this section, so I'll just say V, the first one at the top. You would be using one independent marketing vendor when you resume door-to-door sales and telephone sales. Do you have that vendor currently? Is that a company that you currently know or have already contracted with?
So we stopped marketing in May of 2022, but that was only one vendor that we were using at the time for door-to-door.
Okay. Have you selected whom the new vendor would be?
Oh,
So then-
to be honest, we don't really have any intention of continuing door-to-door, but we just put in a year there just to ensure that.
Okay. Is there in the event that the company moves forward with door-to-door in the future, if you decide to do so, is there any requirement, would you be open to considering a requirement that the company use a entity that is licensed by the commission, either as a broker or otherwise?
Certainly, yeah. So I think there's that's stated in the settlement agreement that we would ensure that all whatever vendor we use has all licensing and peddler's license and anything else required by the state of Maryland.
Yes, those would be, that's on sections Roman numeral 6 regarding the individuals that are going door to door. I'm specifically speaking of the actual company that would be licensed to operate in the state of Maryland.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Seeing no additional questions for this witness, Mr. Hartofelis, you may step down.
Thank you.
Does council have any redirect? Oh, I should ask, Mr. Hartofelis, hold tight 1 second. Any redirect based on the commissioner questioning?
May I just ask like 2 lines of questioning? Is that? Oh no. Okay.
Yeah,
you know what? Maybe I don't have.
No,
any.
you may. If the witness could please take his.
I just wanted to expand on two things that just came up during the commissioner's questioning. Maybe I don't need to go into this, but I feel like it's worthy of everybody knowing. You referenced in response to Chairman Stanik's question an issue you had in Pennsylvania, and I was wondering if you could briefly explain to the commissioners and Mr. Chairman what happened and how the company reacted to it.
Certainly. So we engaged I'll just cut to the chase. So we onboarded a telemarketing company, and they had, and we're not big on using, again, any kind of telemarketing, but any kind of direct outreach like that, but they had, they were started making calls, provided us with an enrollment sheet. The following day, upon receiving that enrollment sheet, our customer assurance team contacted the 10 enrollments. We found that they were robo-dialing, and immediately halted the campaign. Obviously, this is illegal, and it was, it's terrifying. But so within 2-3 days, we were able to identify that this vendor went rogue and was using robo-dialer from whatever country. And it's a serious impact. One of those calls was to the investigatory unit in Pennsylvania, and we got contacted, within the week but, we had halted all marketing prior to, and he was, the Pennsylvania Commission was very understanding to what happened.
And so you resolved that with a settlement with the Pennsylvania Commission for $8,250?
That's right, yes.
And is it your understanding that your quality assurance team caught the problem in a day, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the second question I have for you is, I believe Commissioner Bubar asked about the use of which contract will you use in the terms and conditions. Is it the company's intention to have outside counsel licensed in Maryland, thorough experience at this commission to review those contracts and help you with going through the CAD and OPC and staff consultations in order to have documents that are fully compliant as you move forward?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. At this time, the witness may step down. Seeing no additional witnesses being called today, do the parties have any additional requests of this body?
Yes, Your Honor. We would move for the approval of the settlement agreement. And I think I'm moving on behalf of all the parties.
That's correct.
All the parties concur. I appreciate that the parties in this retail supply complaint have worked together. We heard Ms. Bolton testify that Greenlight has demonstrated cooperation throughout the course of this investigation, and in many cases that makes all the difference. That does not excuse any of the conduct, whether intentional or not, that was undertaken by the company and its officers as experienced from the perspective of a customer. I do find, personally, the penalty is on the lighter side. However, I'm reluctant to disrupt a very detailed settlement with very explicit conditions. Effectively, if approved, Greenlight would be on our probation until all the terms and conditions of this 10-page settlement are satisfied. And for that reason, I would move that the Commission find that this settlement agreement dated April 13, 2023, in case number 9691, is in the public interest, and that the Commission approve this settlement agreement. The vote begins with Commissioner Bubar,
Aye.
Commissioner Linton,
Aye.
and Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved. The settlement agreement is approved. The Commission will endeavor to issue a very brief order in the near future, likely next week, memorializing the Commission's action today. With that, this show cause hearing is adjourned.